After the events of Golden Sun and the Lost Age, a lot of big changes happened in the world of Weird. The Golden Sun event restored the power of alchemy to the world. This caused land masses to be shifted, lost civilizations to be given the power to resurface, and new races of people to be born. Such events made the Warriors of Vale, our heroes from the last game, controversial figures amongst the people of Weird, praised for have saving the world from eventual doom, but criticized for causing more devastating consequences as a result of their actions. But everyone's still forging their own paths in life. Then at some point, Isaac and Jenna took a trip to Crossbone Isle, if you know what I mean, and 9 months later, a sequel was born. Golden Sun Dark Dawn is the succession of the story from the previous games. It was developed for the Nintendo DS, so with a new generation of hardware, it only made sense the game should feature a new generation of heroes. The game opens with a much older Isaac. At this point, he's fathered a child, a young man by the name of Matthew. Matthew will actually be the character we play as in this game. You can tell because he doesn't talk for some arbitrary reason. It's here you'll reunite with Garrett also, as the two explain their mission: to study the strange phenomenon happening as a result of the Golden Sun event, and keep watch over what's left of Mount Aleph. It's a task with seemingly no endpoint, which is why their children are being raised to prepare for the responsibility. But it's thanks to the hot-headed actions of one child, I bet you can't guess whose, that causes a whole bunch of grief for everyone else. Because, damn it, Tyrell wants to play with toys too! As you can probably tell, that's not a toy he's using, but an important tool called the Soar Wing, that is difficult to make. Let's skip ahead a bit. Tyrell gives us an excuse for a tutorial dungeon, breaks the Soar Wing, allows for the group to discover dangerous synergy vortexes, and gives Isaac and Garrett a reason to send their kids on an adventure by securing the materials needed to build a new Soar Wing. I just want to compare the plot setup between Dark Dawn with the previous two games for a hot second. Hey Isaac, you've got to stop these people who are trying to restore alchemy, because if you don't, the world is fricked! Hey Felix, you gotta restore alchemy, because if you don't, the world is fricked! Hey, Matthew, can you run an errand for me and get a feather? Oh, and while you're out, can you bring back some popcorn? Here, take a little extra money. Pick up anything you want for yourself, okay? Dark Dawn feels a lot less epic and grand in its opening hours. To be fair, this is just the setup plot. The other two games even needed time for themselves to establish what was happening in their narratives. Heck, most RPGs do. But where it took Golden Sun less than 2 hours to thrust players into the main quest, Dark Dawn needs over 4 hours to establish that maybe the game isn't actually going to be about finding the dang feather. And to be fair, the parts where Dark Dawn changes its focus to that new plot thread is legitimately interesting. But boy, does it take a long while. People are fickle and impatient. I only know of one person in the entire world that gets excited when he learns a game has a 4-hour introduction. That person is me. And even I know I'm an idiot. For normal people, if a game doesn't start before an hour is up, then the game already sucks. So when I say this game gets going 15 hours into a 30-hour game, that will understandably be a deal breaker for some people. Let's not beat around the bush here. Dark Dawn is not a very beloved game. In fact, many outright dislike it, and there are plenty of legitimate reasons too. This game is very flawed. There are so many untelegraphed points of no return, and it just sucks. Not only does it make the world feel smaller and limit side quest potential, but it means you can also permanently miss Jinn and summons. Used sparingly, points of no return can be effective, but I wish there was some way to return to all the previous areas, even if it's right at the end of the game. You eventually get a boat, and the game says, figure out what to do for yourself now, which, as someone who is a really big fan of The Lost Age, might have made me pee my pants just a little. But I soon proceeded to unpee my pants when I realized this wasn't a true freedom point, and was in essence just the next part of the game. So even when you get a boat, the symbol of being able to go wherever, whenever, players are just mechanically transported to the 4th world map in the game. The battles are pretty easy in comparison to the previous games. Despite having never played this game before, I got my first party wipe at the final boss. Now, in my honest opinion, being easier is not a problem by itself. In fact, I would rather a game be a little too easy than a little too hard. I might even say the game only felt easier because I played all of these games pretty much back to back, and I know how to play Golden Sun by this point. Because, in fairness, I did feel it when the game was pushing back when it spiked up at various points. So while I can't speak for the first-time players, I imagine they would find this game to be more challenging. But if there were at least some difficulty options to choose from, I don't think I would need to bring up the difficulty or lack thereof. If you're a returning fan, the game will also probably annoy you with mandatory tutorials that cannot be skipped. Isaac and Garrett are total chatterboxes, you'll get plenty of in-depth instructions, and there's even a section that recaps the story of the previous games, complete with the same kind of puzzles that were used in those games. You have to do this in order to progress in the game. It definitely feels like a relic of the Wii and DS days of Nintendo, where they wanted to be absolutely sure no one felt left behind, but didn't consider if they went too far. You get the first 5 party members pretty quickly in this game. It made me think it was going to be much more consistent about how it distributes new characters. Instead, the 6th party member is teased for a 20-minute section, then does not permanently rejoin the group for roughly 10 more hours, quickly followed by the 7th and 8th party members. And even for the thing that was the whole catalyst of the adventure, you find it maybe about halfway through the game, but you don't get the chance to return it to Isaac. The whole time you have it, it's just sitting there, taking up a valuable inventory space. This do be a Mars star moment. But the thing that left me the most bummed out was how few returning characters there are. Isaac and Garrett are the only 2 returning party members from the original crew, and even then, they are only seen during the prologue. Kraden will join up with the group for the last third of the game, and in classic Kraden fashion, will somehow have the most lines of dialogue for the fewest contributions to the story. Because of how much the old characters get mentioned within the opening hour, I did not think it was unreasonable to believe there would be a few moments throughout the game where we would see familiar faces. And there are times we do get to meet returning characters, but not the characters we might actually want to see the most. Oops, I guess. Ivan is fairly frequently talked about, Piers indirectly helps the party a few times, Mia gets mentioned no more than twice, but poor Felix and Sheva are just gone. Who knows where they went? I sure have no clue. Which is a bit of a shame because I would have loved to see how they've all changed in 30 years. It would be cool to see how they act now that they're parents, or at the very least, just more mature. And in fairness to the kids, I think the main party of Dark Dawn at least tries to stand out more than the characters from the previous games. It's hit and miss sometimes, but there was effort, and I appreciate the more frequent character interactions. They make fun of Kraden for being old, so that's a plus. I appreciate the game doesn't rely on trying to shoehorn in half-hearted nostalgia grabs. At least that's the lie I try to tell myself. Yeah, sorry. We couldn't think of a way to include Jenna into the story. Despite the fact that she was an important character for the last 2 games, the main character for a brief section in the second game, and also the mother for this current game's protagonist. We just don't want to force characters in without a concrete reason for them to be there. I hope we can have your understanding. Anyway, are y'all ready for the new Yoompa cameo? I'm not upset, but I am offended. But what really sets this game apart from the rest of the series? Despite appearances, Golden Sun and The Lost Age played very differently from each other. So what does this new game on new hardware do to evolve the series? To be honest, it doesn't really do that. The core gameplay is completely unchanged. It still has the same magic system, summon system, equipment system, story structure even. Dark Dawn's biggest differentiator from its predecessors is the fact that it's on a new generation of handheld. Things have been tweaked to feel a little more natural on the DS, but this game has nothing of its own to differentiate itself from its older brothers. The biggest gameplay innovation that Dark Dawn had going for itself was the fact that the game could be completely controlled on the bottom screen of the DS using the stylus. Even then, the game was still 100% playable with a traditional button layout. Of course, the graphics are a bit nicer, the characters and environments are now completely 3D. This allows for the camera to be manipulated for more exciting story moments, but one might say that's expected of a new installment. Because of world-altering events, at least players are still going through unfamiliar lands despite adventuring on the same continent. But nothing on its own. It's just more Golden Sun. I'm super down to recommend Golden Sun and The Lost Age to anyone who thinks it would be an enjoyable time. But where does that leave Dark Dawn? Would I give it the same acclaim as its 2 predecessors? Abso-frickin-lutely! Because the game's still fun as hell! Golden Sun's battle system is back and it's as fun as it always has been. Battles also play out in full 3D this time, and they're more visually exciting than they were before. Djinn, of course, are back, and you gotta explore the world and solve puzzles to get them. And also, this time, each Djinn has a completely unique design that is based on the function they perform in battle. Oh, but you know what Djinn means? It means summons, baby! Oh boy, those summons! The summon animations got completely overhauled, and now they take up both screens and are way more flashy than before. Even though most are returning, they feel completely new and fresh. And also they added a new summon to this game that was based on the North American commercial for the first Golden Sun that had nothing to do with the actual game, but that's also so cool! But you wanna know what's also cool? Weapon howls. Oh boy, weapon howls! You gotta love them! Well, what if every single weapon in this game had at least 2? At least! Your party members get to grow alongside their equipment, so you don't have to switch it out as frequently if you don't want to. You get a party member later in this game that can go literal beast mode, and she does so much damage. Holy crap, she's so broken. Oh man, it's awesome. And oh boy, the game may be really easy overall, but when it pushes back, man, does it remind you how awesome the battle system is. There's just enough panic, but very little stress. Some of the bosses are so memorable because of this. Eventually, a really bad thing happens in the story, and scary monsters are all over the place. They got a new battle theme, and they're actually kind of tough encounters, so it made me not want to go into those places, but the game forces you to progress into there, so you have to do it. Oh man, it's a cool idea. The music even! Bro, this music! Matoi, the Piano Man, Sakuraba back at it again with the Fire of Inferno jams! Golden Sun 1 and 2 had phenomenal soundtracks, and 3 absolutely delivers as well. Oh man, Golden Sun. It's just so good! This video was actually the most difficult for me to write regarding these 3 games. Dark Dawn is the most flawed game of the series. I spent a long time trying to figure out how to balance my praise and complaints. How much do I talk about either without giving off a false impression of the game? Mediocre is a word that often gets thrown around when discussing this game. Frankly, I don't agree. I think this game gets more hate than it deserves. Because even if it doesn't evolve the series in a meaningful way, it's still more Golden Sun. I still enjoy having to interact with the environment to progress in a dungeon. The battle system still feeds into itself. And it's refreshing to see narrative consequences of events that occurred in the previous games. It's the combination of those simple but well-executed concepts that make it a special experience. I don't mind saying it. Golden Sun Dark Dawn is a good game, and I have no problem saying that it's a game worth playing. While it's not a particularly amazing game, and though I wish it tried a little harder to be more of its own thing, I still appreciate what the game is. That's the thing about Golden Sun, as well as every other game Camelot Software Planning makes. While not the most groundbreaking games in the world, they do have a certain charm to them. They feel like a bigger adventure than the upfront experience, and Dark Dawn easily fits in that selection. It may be heavily derived from what came before, but I still feel it is no less brilliant. Even still, it does feel nice to bring the Golden Sun series to a close. While it's a shame there hasn't been a new entry in this series in over a decade, I do think that bringing an end to Wayard's story is a nice feeling. It doesn't tie Camelot to the legacy of an unfinished... Ah, god damn it.